Hey cats and kittens. Today we're going to talk about acoustic guitar, specifically the acoustic pedal board of the great John Martyn. If you don't know who John Martyn is, you need to find out right away. John Martyn was one of the finest singer, songwriter, guitar players ever. He's easily one of the best singers, if not the best singer. The guy had like jazz scatology, for lack of a better term, to his phrasing, but was still solidly in the folk pop realm, had the most mellifluous, crystalline, beautiful, yet projecting, pungent voice. I think the only person I can think of who was a better guitar player, and that's subjective, and here's why, is Richard Thompson. But here's why that's subjective. Richard's probably a better lead player, certainly more inventive, combining, say, pedal steel licks with Indian modes. But John could play lead and play very, very well. But the thing that John was probably better at than Richard, and I think Richard would admit this because I've spoken to him about it, is John was rock solid rhythmically. Like the things he could do while picking, slapping, strumming all at the same time and dead in time were amazing. He was also a fine songwriter. The more obvious example for most people is the song May You Never from Eric Clapton's Slow Hand album. No, Slow Hand didn't write that one. John Martyn did. And John Martyn was one of the earliest, if not the earliest, certainly the earliest acoustically, to incorporate the Echoplex tape machine, not only into his performances and his writing, but into his whole being. He basically started creating songs using the Echoplex. Some might say he overused it in concert, but he owned it, and he killed it. He was amazing. John Martyn, I remember the first time I heard him, and I was like, who is this guy? And I recently, all these years later, just turned on a new friend. We were talking about Echoplexes. I'm like, oh, have you ever heard the way John Martyn did? He's like, who's John Martyn? So I pulled up a YouTube of John Martyn doing Small Hours, from his One World album, I think, live in England in like 73. And my friend was like, what is that? You know, it was extraordinary. So if you don't know who John Martyn is, you do now. Go find his records. Maybe not the late 80s, early 90s records. See, John was a searcher, and an innovator like myself. So during the late 80s and early 90s, he embraced that wholeheartedly. I can say that I didn't. Points for me. But, you know, John was being John. He was always on the cutting edge, at least of singer-songwriters. So, but his early, from the first album to like, I think it was the fifth, In fact, the album he made called Inside Out, that followed up his biggest album was my favorite, and people at the time hated it because he was stretching boundaries too much for them. It was too much, but it's awesome. So John Martyn. So we're going to take a look at his pedal board. There are some posts online, some old pictures of what John was using. Essentially, he was, believe it or not, he was playing into a muff, a big muff, a ram's head big muff. He had a wah before that, off the board. He then had a Muchon. I mean, you know, we're talking early 70s, like. And then he had, at some point, added a Boss chorus ensemble. And then had a variety of a few other bibs and bobs here and there, but that's like the core of it. And then, of course, the Echoplex. He also was one of the first users of a Korg drum machine that you hear on Small Hours. And he did it very tastefully. I mean, you know, I love Phil Collins, but we're not talking Phil Collins here. It was great. So anyway, yes, then the chorus ensemble into the Echoplex. Now, in later years, he kind of switched things up here and there. He incorporated, so he switched, at some point he switched from the Echoplex to a Space Echo, and then he switched to digital delay, basically getting long delay swells. He was using a volume pedal up front for this stuff. That's the basics though. Now, so I spent about 3 months doing, I hope you like this episode, because I got about 3 months into this, putting together different boards. Now, this first picture you're going to see right now, as I speak, is the board I've been using for a few years. Now, not that different from John's board, does not have the wah, which I have started to incorporate myself on acoustic playing, does not have the filter, does have a chorus, and on the TC chorus, I do use the chorus ensemble setting, tone print. And, you know, it's got my own little thing. I like the mood. I like to do micro sampling. I mostly use the outward. I know this is probably like, you know, it's an expensive pedal to use it for only this, but the outward, the Cooper Effects outward has the most organic hold, freeze option. And you can hold freeze and still play through it and get the textural effect as well. Use your mix wet dry accordingly. So yeah, so that's my board. Not that different from John's, but I wanted to see, can I make my board better? B, can I really recreate John's board? And C, if I recreate John's board and I like it, can I make that better? So before we get to that, I want to mention that I've been using, not so it doesn't seem like I've got super expensive stuff. I know the Mood's expensive. I know the Cooper Effects outward too can be expensive. The rest of that stuff's not too pricey. The Empress Vintage Modified Super Delay, they're going for like $220 now used. And I've used that on tons of records. It's great. The tape sound is great. So it can work for this really well. Tried it. But the key thing is this Zoom A14. That's an amazing unit because you can put, I think, 6, at least 5, but 6 effects possibly in a row. So you can have, and it's got acoustic modeling, right? Not IR, but modeling. And it's actually quite good. So you could have, you know, EQ, a little bit of grit, compression, an exciter, reverb, all in one pedal with the modeling. And that's what I did. In fact, I think it can do 6 effects because I think that's pretty much what I've got going in my setting. I've got 2 settings. I've got one set for grand auditorium, singer-songwriting thing, and then the other one is pretty close to that, but with a little little more grit put in. Because sometimes you just, not overdrive, just a little grit makes it stick out, a little punchier. So I want to say that those Zoom A14s, the modeling is actually surprisingly terrific. And having an app that you can configure it, take your time, dial it up is amazing. And that you can do 6 effects at once, $125. You know what I mean? It's kind of hard to fight that. But before I go to the John board, I tried to put together another board, which you'll see pictured now. And the problem was all the individual elements were great. It was fine. But I had trouble. I got the Nuix or the Nukes, however they call it, their Optima Air at the end in the picture there. And I tried to use that as my Zoom A14 replacement. This Nuix Optima Air does have IRs. You can load your own. They have some that come with it. It was really good. It was only about $125, and that was new, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I paid that new because there was somebody closing them out. However, I got it sounding really, really good until I started using it in context. And then when I was using it in context, just to be fair to everybody here, I don't know if it was the Nuix Optima Air or it was the Optima Air in combination with the effects that you see on that board that were the issue. But I was getting a hollow. I couldn't get rid of this hollow sound. Didn't matter if I raised the EQ up, didn't matter what IR I dialed up. Sure, I could change it a little, but it wasn't getting there for me. So I bailed on that. A lot of expensive gear on that board, but I bailed on it, started over, and now this third and last board you'll see, that's what I've ended up with. Now, I left off the muff because I experimented with using a muff with acoustic guitar, and unless you have a sound hole magnetic pickup, I didn't really think it, like with a sound hole magnetic, it sounded good, but I don't usually use that. I use contact mic from James May Systems, what I use. It's similar to K&K. They're contact mics under the soundboard. But yeah, it sounded good with magnetic pickup, but not with what I use, so I decided to forego the big muff. Plus, I couldn't really see using it in context that much, and as far as I know, John Martyn only used it on 1 or 2 songs, and maybe not every night with those 1 and 2 songs, because he might not have played them all the time. So, chop that. I did, though, add the Fender Smolder in its place, which is an overdrive impedance pickup compensation device. It does a few things that the comp, it says comp, it's not compression, that's compensation. I think it's impedance compensation, but there might be other things going on there. But that was very useful because when I started dialing it and listening on headphones, I went, oh, wow, okay. It did something really cool to my pickup. I was able to get the right bass response, have the curve I wanted. Also, it's got a blend. So it's got wet, dry blend, mix knob, blend knob. And the overdrive, I guess they chose something that would work well with acoustic. It's definitely not an overdrive sound I would use on electric, but it works. If it was up to me, I might tune that a little differently, but it works. And the way I have it working in that picture is it's not really super duper present. What I found is up to about 10, 11 o'clock, I mean, it's there on the Smolder when you dial the drive in to 10, 11 o'clock. When you get past 12 o'clock, then you're really getting some drive. And it's fine. It's fine. I will not hesitate in the future to crank up the drive if and when I need it, but having some blend in there, beautiful. So that's what I went for first. Then, now this I chose, this was not in John's rig. I chose this for how it sounded from my guitar. It's something I've used in the past. I got one on Reverb really cheap. I love the concept of the Aphex Big Bottom used judiciously. The Aphex Big Bottom / Exciter used judiciously. Why? Because if you just vicariously dial these things in, it's going to be too much. So you'll see in the picture, I've got a little bit of, more than a little bit of low end being excited and bringing some bottom back, which worked great for my guitar. The high end, it gave me some sparkle and a little bit of bite, but this is where this blend knob comes in handy on this device too. Just brought it in a little bit, just a little bit, okay? Then to mimic, actually, this is better than a mimic, to represent John's Mutron. Oh, and I should also say I'm using up front before I get to the Mutron. I am using up front a mini Dunlop bass wah. Why a bass wah? Because I found the mini one that only turns on when you hit it. It's in the off position, and all you have to do is hit it. The mini bass one sounds better with acoustic guitar. It also sounds better with lap steel, so that's how I knew about it. Already owned it. So yes, now to get to the Mutron replacement representative, the Source Audio Spectrum. This thing is insane. I mean, I fell in love with this instantly. But for acoustic, it's very important, and this is where their app and all the other sub-features came in. Every time I tried just using the controls on the Surface, and this goes for, I tried a real Mutron. I tried a couple other Mutron clones before getting the Source Audio Spectrum, and they all brought out so much 400 hertz resonance that the guitar started feeding back as soon as I kicked it in. When you started playing, it all sounded funky and great, but it was feeding back. What I was able to achieve with the Source Audio Spectrum, go into the app, go into the sub-menus, the secondary menus, and tweak till my heart's delight to get a really vocal sound, like a really expressive, responsive vocal sound with no feedback, a little bit of grit on it, change the EQ curve, change the blend. Killer. Cannot say enough. If you like that sound, try this thing. It's unbelievable. And then you save your settings in your presets in the app. Unbelievable. Next, I recently replaced, like I said, I used the outward V2 from Cooper FX as my hold freeze on my old board. My second, I had another cheaper board that I had a Z-Cat hold chorus, hold delay chorus. And it was good, but it wasn't organic enough. Again, that's why I like the Cooper FX. But I needed to save space. I also wanted it to be smaller. So I got the Astronaut 3 Plus. And the funny thing about this is it's a reverb. And a lot of freeze pedals you'll see on the market are either delay freeze or reverb freezes. They're based on delay or freeze algorithms most of the time. This one's a reverb algorithm. Now, the reverbs in it are great. I'm not using it for that. It's got a regular freeze, and which I've heard, I had their little Force. There was a little mini freeze pedal that was fantastic. That's where these algorithms come from, but they've improved them, which is awesome, and they have improved them. They're a little more organic, a little more movement. So one freeze in the first bank of presets is just, straight freeze. Second one, and the last one in the second bank of presets is an octave down, and that's the one I use. Fantastic. Not too expensive, really, either. Although I guess you could get another outward, too, if you had the space. So John then had a chorus ensemble. Well, I have the chorus ensemble in the mini TC version in their tone print in my old board. But I wanted to try some other options. So I actually got the most incredible chorus ensemble clone made by Grobert Effects in Poland. It's big. It's almost the size of the old one, which is like, it's 3 pedal sized footprint, and it's got the preamp in it, and it's awesome. I got one. It's unbelievably accurate. It's beautiful. It's quieter, which is even better. It doesn't have all the impedance issues. Again, even better. But because when you put that effect on, it's on. There's no mix knob, right? Now, it sounds to me, some clean coming through, but it's not up to you how much clean's coming through that design. And that was problematic for me. So I decided to try my good friend Matthew from Alexander Effects, his wavelength that I own, dialed up a beautiful chorus sound, got it pretty close, sounded great. Okay, nailed the chorus ensemble without the preamp thing, happy. But then I realized I had this lo-fi machine. It's supposed to mimic a cassette tape machine, but when you actually use it, you realize that it's really sort of like a warpy chorus pedal, a lo-fi warpy chorus pedal. I chose it ultimately because with my guitar, and this is what you all should do with your guitars, because it's trickier with acoustics, right? I decided that this lo-fi machine thing, which I had been using with my modular stuff, that sounded better for me. And I tried it with the 2 songs. I only use chorus on 2 songs, but we're talking about John Martyn. I don't think he used it that much either, but regardless, I liked the sound of that better. If you want a cheaper way to go the chorus route, and you can do 4 presets without a separate switcher and have all kinds of other sounds, vibrato, blah, 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 blah. Alexander Effects wavelength, way to go. So, and I really wouldn't be losing anything, or I wouldn't have any hesitation to put the wavelength on here. Next, the delay. Okay, so when it came to the delay, and I've played a lot of Echoplexes, I'm not really down with carrying them around or maintaining them because there are other options. So the first option I tried was the Catlin Bred Belle Epoque Deluxe. Worked great, sounded, pretty damn close. And so that was cool. And it had the preamp and everything. The thing that kept me from using it, so with the Belle Epoque Deluxe, unlike the real Echoplex, you can have 2 presets. How do you get 2 presets? Well, if you have an expression pedal, and it's very finicky about expression pedals, by the way. You can have an expression pedal control delay time. So if you normally use a long delay time and then you go back to the heel, you get a slap. So you do kind of sort of have 2 presets. And I was using it like that for a while. But here's the thing about Echoplex, at least well-maintained Echoplexes. They're a very percussive, slappy sound. Everybody talks about tape delay for good reason, but very few people have actually played a real tape delay. They've probably more likely played an emulation. The real thing, go listen to them on the YouTube and check them out. Especially when a Belle Epoque is being compared to him directly. There's one guy that did an amazing job of that. It's a very percussive, slappy, kind of rhythmic. It's a very rhythmic thing. So if your music is rhythmic, beautiful. That's the one for you. If it's not, there are other options. Other options are, and remember, John Martyn at one point in his career switched over to Roland Space Echo. Nocturne makes the mystery brain. And by the time you're watching this, I will have put up my delay pedal preamp shootout video. Go listen to the mystery brain in that video. It's amazing. It sounds better to me than the Belle Epoque. Well, better, just different. Better for me, I should say. It sounds better for me, for my music. Okay, for you, you don't know. That's why I'm telling you. It's gorgeous. The repeats, you can get self-oscillation while there's still repeats happening underneath the oscillation. The preamp sounds incredible, extremely well made. It has modulation now, the latest versions of it. It even has a boost that sounds fantastic because it changes the impedance as well as boosts your signal. So for my money, if you've got the money, I think the Nocturne Brain is better for me, but the Belle Epoque's fine. That is true, authentic to Echoplex, and we're talking about John Martyn, so Echoplex. Now, why did I choose the Boss DD20? Here's why. Because we live in the modern world. And in the modern world, I have to go play gigs someday. Someday. We'll be allowed out again. And I have to switch throughout an entire set list of songs. Some songs have slap. Some songs have medium delays. Some songs have super long delays with high feedback and higher mix. Some songs I want other effects on there. I want more modulation. I want to change the EQ. I want to save those presets and have the ability to recall them. That's why I chose the Boss DD20. DD200, I'm sorry. I actually own the DD20. Now, the tape setting on the DD200 is a Roland Space Echo. Boss and Roland, same company, they own it. That's what they were going for. So, does it sound exactly like a Space Echo? Well, I'll tell you the thing. Their Space Echo pedal, to me, kind of sounds like caca, if you want to know the truth of it. I've tried it a million times. I almost went back and bought it again, but it just sounds bad, man. It's a sound, yes, it's good for some people, not for me. Maybe that's what I should say, not for me. But the tape echo sound that they got in this is better. That's right off the bat better. 2, you can tweak the living hell out of it with sub-menus and everything else. You can get your BPM down and all this. And just like the original Roland Space Echo, like a Belle Epoque, it's got a preamp, and that preamp adds some distortion, dirt color to it, and it's really well done. So I like it without the dirt coloration. It's designated by, like, say, 2-head tape, and then when you see 2.1, that's 2-head tape with dirt. So anything 3 dot is with dirt, or 1.2, that's 2 heads with dirt, you know. So is it, is it as good as the tape? No, nothing ever is. But it's pretty damn close. It actually sounds quite beautiful once you tweak it, you save it. You can add dirt if you want or not, and then have presets. And essentially, it's got 5 presets. How is that? You have 4 presets and a manual mode. So I leave my manual mode in a mode that I only use for like 2 songs. I don't touch it. The rest of my presets are already in there, and I can switch through. That's why I chose the Boss DD200. Now, eventually, I'm just going to be brutally honest here, so no one sees me at a show and goes, oh, wait, but you're using the Nocturne here. Yeah, I might. That's how good the Nocturne is. I might eventually be swayed to put the Nocturne on here, but the Nocturne doesn't have presets. You said it, that's what it is, unless you bend down and change it. So that's why we have the Boss DD200. And by the way, it's got a ton of other delays in there, and they're all great. You make it what you want to make it of it. Dig? And then last but not least, and this is a new find for me, the Fender Preverb. Now, I just wanted a reverb at the end, but it turns out that this thing is a preamp reverb. Why? I didn't think that was really important, but you know what? It actually is, because next to it, I've got my Fishman Aura pedal with the imaging that I like and EQ and everything. So that was clipping to a certain point when I was hitting it. You know, you get it to where the light goes on a little bit. But then when I was playing, the preverb wasn't clipping. That's because the actual output out of the Fishman was not as high as it could be. So I could use the preamp on the preverb to get to the same point where I just see the light going on at the hardest points. It's got a tilt, which is another EQ, less, more bass thing. It's got a notch filter, and I must tell you, even though I use the notch filter on my Fishman Aura, having some more of that ain't a bad thing, and this one allows you to dial it in. It's fantastic. So I chose a reverb. So I know, a lot of jibber jabber from Ed, because like I said, I put a lot of time into this, but I'm also really passionate about John Martyn. And more than anything else, forget about anything else I say here today. Even if you're an acoustic junkie like me, you got to go check out John Martyn. I mean, all right? All right, so now I'm going to play for you through my old pedal board, direct into Pro Tools. No mics, no nothing. And then I'm going to play through John Martyn, the new John Martyn pedal board, direct into Pro Tools. And you'll be able to hear the two of them side by side. I want to hear what you think. You know, did I miss something? Is there anything else you want to know? Because I'm a well of useless information. But it was actually a lot of fun to do this. So I hope you get out of it as much out of it as I did doing it. And I really do want to get your opinion on these two boards and how they compare. I tried to do this once before when I had the other board put together that with the Optima Air, and it didn't work. So this is cool. This is cool. We got to do this together. If you have any other suggestions, let me know. I'm going to do another one of these on the guitar pedal board of Richard Thompson. And I can speak directly because I've spoken with Richard about this. I've seen it. I've been there. He doesn't use that much, but it's interesting how he uses it and why. And we can also talk about his guitar, because there was a few things he told me that Richard Thompson, I mean, unbelievable. All right, so that's John Martyn. Next time, Richard Thompson. Let's hang. Thanks for watching.